Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming to hang out tonight. Welcome to Entropy Emporium. If it's your first time here, we love having you here already. My name is Kian. I am one of the mods here at Entropy, so I'm going to kick us off with a little bit of channel information before we jump into introductions. First and foremost, we are raising money for the Palestine Children's Relief Fund. It is very obvious why they're doing really important work in Gaza right now. They're continuing to do that despite the ceasefire. There's still resources needed, there's still aid that needs to be sent. We ask that you pay attention to the world around you. If you cannot donate, continue to advocate, continue to speak up. Community is what's going to save us right now. So be there for yourself and be there for each other. Second thing is that this is a Discord. This is a Discord. We have a Discord server. You can tell that my brain is not fully online yet. We have a Discord server if you want to come and hang out. We do a lot of just yelling at each other about how amazing everybody is and lifting each other up when we can and talking about our favorite characters and all the food that we make and all of the fun things. So if ever you need a community, you want to check out what we do, you want to be in any of our shows, it's where we first post our casting calls. So definitely come and hang out on our Discord. Uh, Final thing. Oh no. Oh, I know where it is. I know where it is. Wait, hang on a second. Bear with me, chat. We're getting there. There it is. Godkiller Desecration deals with mature topics which can include graphic depictions of violence, death, betrayal, gaslighting, sex with fade to black, religious themes, drowning, self sacrifice, manipulation, and mind control. This is a mature game, and these can be some really serious topics. Know that on this side of the screen, we have our safety tools, we have our resources that keep us safe while we are gaming, but we want you to do the same. So, if at any time you need to take a step back because this is not your kind of game, because you need to just take care of yourself and check in, we want you to do that. We encourage you to do that. This is a channel where safety always comes first. Um, there's plenty of other content that we have here at Entropy Emporium, and it's a wide range of things, I promise. So, I'll go over what other stuff we have on this channel, but definitely know that we have something for you. If this is not your cup of tea, that's totally okay. I think that those are all the channel things I need to take care of. So now I will hand it over to JD for introductions.
Hello, I am JD, pronouns he, they, and tonight I am joining Kian, playing our god killer Talon, pronouns any, all.
And my name is Kian once again. My pronouns are they, them, and I am the GM for this game. So I get to play all of the gods, I get to play all the NPCs, everybody that JD is not playing. Um, What else? This is a two-person game, so we do run this one a little bit shorter. So we'll be here for about 2 hours, friends. So sit tight, hang out. We'll still have our break halfway through, but we will not be going for the typical 3 hours that I try to run my games for. With that, let's jump back into it. It's been a while since we've been here, so I'm going to do a quick recap just to make sure everybody's on the same page. So when this all started, we began with Talon killing a god, killing Ditlan, this god of bone and of death, this god of reanimation. It is something that has never happened before. There has never been a god killer scene. We don't know if there's ever going to be another scene again. So this is a pretty big deal. And after killing Ditlan, Kalaris, the god that Talon tides to, at least did, and we don't know if that will continue, requested, to put it gently, a task from Talon and said, I need you to go take care of this god that is about to be born. Make sure that this god does not walk. Talon set out on this quest despite any hesitations, despite the anxieties, despite the very real threat of what could happen to their best friend Starling while they are away. Talon said, I'm going to go do this task, and you decided to head out to the city under the bridge. The city under the bridge connects the Mirrored City to the city, whoa, Angelfell, City of Edges. I totally lost my train of thought there. Um, the city under bridge is the interconnecting two, and it is a place of violence. It is a place of chaos. It is generally seen outside of the domain of pretty much any god except for one, the god of Musin, who you conveniently came across and were best friends with right off the bat. And by that I mean Musin tried to kill you.
Mhm.
First and foremost, Musin identified you as the god killer, which tipped off something very interesting because people shouldn't know what it is that you're doing. So either word is traveling faster than you can travel on your bike, or somehow Musin was aware of you when you entered his domain. Not quite sure which it is. Um, you had a standoff and you talked your way through this interaction with Musin and were able to convince him to let you take a step back and leave this space. And the second that you left this tavern, the walls came back up and the destruction began within as Musin tore into and fed on all of the people that were staying and standing in that tavern. We're going to pick up exactly where we left off. You are standing outside of this tavern. You can hear screams from the inside. Somebody is desperately trying to open those doors. There are people banging on the windows. You can see blood starting to smear everywhere. It's starting to sound gargled. There are moans of pain. But you are outside of it all, and for the moment, you are safe. You and is it Sunshine is the name of your falcon?
Yep,
You and
sunshine.
Sunshine are safe outside of this tavern. What do you do?
Talon stands there with very much warring impulses. On the one hand, he very much wants to try to wrench that door open, to break the windows, to do something. But what stops them is when they register the reactions of everyone else who is walking by. And that scares Talon more than what is happening inside. That all of these people are so used to this type of destruction and devastation that they don't even pay it any mind. They just keep walking like it's a normal day. And that signals to Talon that she should probably get out of there while she still can. And so rather than trying to open that door, which honestly he did not want to do because that is terrifying, and they do not want to come face to face with Musen again, since they are very aware they barely made it out of that. So, you know what? Discretion is the better part of valor. We're hopping on our bike. We are getting the fuck out of here while we can.
I respect it so much because Musin, the god of destruction, is not a god to be crossed. And they let you escape once, and there's no guarantee that it would happen a second time. And you do see that people are very unbothered, or if they are bothered, they are making a point to not show it. This is a city where if you expose yourself as caring about things, as being concerned, it makes you a target more than it makes you a human being. And that's an alarming thing. And that is a very, very hard way to live. And so people do just continue on the way. You get on your bike, people part ways for you to make sure that you have space. There's a few interested whispers, a few gazes that linger on your back as you're biking away to make sure, well, this person clearly was involved. Let me make sure that they're actually leaving this space. But nobody stops you until there is a person standing in your direct path. Bright, bright red hair that goes almost all the way down to the backs of their knees, pale skin, bright blue eyes. As they stand there and cock their head and they refuse to get out of the way, what do? You're still moving at this point, and it is well within your right to continue to move if that's what you would like to do.
As much as that is something I would like to do, that is not something I am going to follow through on. Talon stops the bike and probably skids to a stop a couple of feet away from them.
This person stares at you and slowly starts to smile and looks a little confused almost. And they start to approach. Does Talon wear a helmet?
Yes, safety is very important.
Amidst all of this, you took the time to put your helmet on to make sure that you were safe, which I respect. Always wear a helmet, chat. Definitely, it is worth it.
Made sure
There's a lot.
Sunshine was secure, got the helmet on, did all of
Absolutely.
those
Does
things.
Sunshine have a helmet?
Yes,
Oh my god.
absolutely.
Perfect. That makes me so happy. Um, This person starts to approach you, and it's almost like they're studying their own reflection within the visor of your helmet as they are getting closer, and they're still looking at you and trying to suss out exactly who it is that they're looking at. And when they're close enough, they very loudly say, "You know, you shouldn't have survived that, right?"
And Talon considers just not saying anything, but then asks, which thing shouldn't I have survived? Because I'm racking up a few of those, it seems.
Honestly, that sounds about right, but I'm talking about that thing with Musin. You shouldn't have walked out of there alive. And yet here you are.
And yet, here I am.
I wonder what would make the god of destruction pause and let such an easy target go.
I would not speculate about any of the gods and the choices they make.
Probably wise to do so, but it's my job to speculate what Musin does as his most devout. So, what are you to him if I'm the one who worships him most closely?
That would seem like something he would need to tell you himself.
I can respect somebody who wants to dance around an answer, is too afraid to give the truth. That's understandable. My name is Isaac. I am, as I said, the most devout of Musin. And you, whether or not you want to admit it, I think are somebody that he's afraid of.
Like I said to him, I'm just passing through. I'm not here to make trouble.
Hmm. Trouble's found you at the very least, which is an interesting thing. Usually doesn't have the chance to reach quite that level when somebody's just passing through. And where are you headed if this isn't your permanent destination?
Right now, I'm just going on a little bit of a tour, getting to see more of the world than I have at any other point in my life.
And you decided to start with the city under the bridge, coming from Angelfell? It's a little bit of a culture shock.
I didn't claim to make good decisions.
Fair enough. Well, let me show you around then. Give you a bit more of a tour of the city, if you're inclined.
Are you certain your god would approve of that?
I'm certain that as long as there are bones to break within his reach, he's not too bothered with what I do.
Then I suppose a tour it is, but I will need to be back on the road soon enough.
I won't hold you any longer than you'll allow. If you'd like, you can park your bike or we can take it, whichever you prefer.
I think I'd like to keep it with me. I wouldn't want to overstay my welcome,
Of
such
course.
as it is.
Of course. And Isaac gets closer and really without any sort of preamble, any sort of hesitation, hikes their leg over the bike and sits down behind you, gets very comfortable, looks at Sunshine, a little confused, a little concerned for a second, but if Sunshine does not make any move, will settle in behind you. Um, you do have the chance, if you would like to, since it's been a while since we've played, there is the feel someone or something out move if you would like to utilize it. You don't have to, but just a reminder that it's there.
I think that would be a good move to pull out at this time.
Okay, go ahead. So when you try to feel out a person or place, say what you want clarity about and answer one. The GM will give you clarity you seek and answer the other. So what do you want clarity about when it comes to Isaac? Or when it comes to the city under the bridge? Feel free to take your pick.
I think for this it'll be focused on Isaac
Okay.
and what what Talon wants to understand is what Isaac's motivation is in this.
Okay. Thank you, Will, for the chaos point. I have been gifted so many lovely things today.
William. William.
Makes my heart so happy. Thank you, Will. Um, Isaac is. Can you say your question again? I want to make sure I answer it correctly.
What is Isaac's motivation in approaching Talon?
Isaac is somebody who, one, knows the lay of the land. That seems to be a genuine offer. Um, and two, is driven. Thank you, Mac. Ah, no, do not thank you, Mac. I am morally opposed to anybody redeeming order in this game, but it's fine, I guess. Oh, there it is. Okay, thank you, Mac. I appreciate it. I'm getting really
Mac, you're
mixed
a
signals.
menace.
Isaac is somebody who their offer seems genuine. They genuinely want to show you around the city under the bridge and help you get to know the lay of the land. They are also somebody who is driven with an innate curiosity, and they seem genuinely curious about who you are and why you would be able to walk away. They don't want to lead you back to Musin. They don't want to lead you really anywhere you don't want to go. They just want to be able to observe you longer to see if they can understand why you were so special to be able to get out of that tavern. Um, which question would you like to answer? What feels welcoming on the surface, or what feels dark or unnerving when I peer deeper?
I think I'll go with what feels dark or unnerving when I peer deeper.
Okay.
And what I'm imagining the answer to that is in essence who Isaac is. They are the most devout of a god of destruction. And I would imagine looking at them, Talon can see elements of why they would have been chosen to fulfill that role. Because it would
Absolutely.
seem to take a particular type of person to be the most devout of a god like that.
It absolutely would. And looking at Isaac, nothing about their visuals, but something about the way they carry themselves kind of reminds you of Andre, the person who led you to Deklan. And it gives you this sense of Isaac is a guide. Right now, Isaac is a guide to the city. But you would imagine that it would be pretty easy for Isaac to also be a guide to Musin when the god gets hungry, when that desire for destruction needs to be satiated. What feels welcoming on the surface? Isaac's eyes are bright in the same way that starlings are, but starlings are often toward Colaris, and it's that just genuine being devout, being excited about this god. Isaac's eyes carry that same gleam, and it kind of reminds you of Starling a little bit, and it makes you think of your friend and how this is a friend that you had to leave behind, but you will hopefully be able to return to. And this feels like a little bit of home at a place that's much more distant than you've ever been before. Isaac gets on the bike behind you, kind of just rests their hands and grabs the edges of the seat so they're not actually wrapping their arms around you. Um, and kind of juts their chin and says, "You can just start driving." And as you start to take off, they point out different places along the way. There's a bar here, there's a brothel there, there's somebody who lives in this house and someone else who lives in that house. And it all kind of passes over you. And then you get to an alleyway, and Isaac kind of tugs on your jacket, gestures their head to the side, and they get off the bike and start to walk down this alleyway. Do you follow?
Talon has agreed to follow Isaac for the moment, so yes, they follow with a bit of trepidation.
Would you say that you're doing as you're told?
I think that's fair.
Okay.
Yes.
When you do as you're told, say how you show submission and answer one. In this case, following along despite not having any information about what's going to happen next. The GM will show you a glimpse of this person's true intentions as they answer the other. Would you like to answer how are you rewarded or what vulnerability do you reveal?
I'll go with what vulnerability do you reveal?
Okay.
Because in Talon following, it first of all shows that they're willing to take what could be an immediately risky action without stopping to consider the consequences, really. But more so than that, I think it reveals how much they are a fish out of water right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this place is so unfamiliar and so different. And at this point, they've been following Isaac's instructions to the point where they also aren't sure how to necessarily get back to the road that they were on. Like,
Mm.
so they're definitely showing that vulnerability of not being on steady footing whatsoever.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think that Isaac certainly clocks your willingness to just follow along. Um, we'll get to how you're rewarded in just a moment, but you're walking down this alley and there are no windows, there are no doors, and you're progressing a little bit farther and a little bit farther. The walls are getting taller and darker. There's grime smeared everywhere. This is a very dirty, filthy place, one that probably you wouldn't otherwise find yourself in before Isaac stops and turns around and looks at you. And they sort of do that same, they cock their head to one side and they smile. You seem pretty brave. Or pretty stupid. I haven't really decided which one it is. What do you think?
Pretty stupid.
Your honesty is refreshing in a place like this. A lot of people like to lie to get what they want here. You're out here on your own. Nobody but your little pet bird as a companion. I could kill you right now, and nobody would be any the wiser. But I won't do that. It's not in my nature to do the actual killing. That seems a little bit more up Muson's alley. Pun intended. Um, and Isaac pulls out. They reach into their pocket, and it seems like they're digging for something for a second. And then they pull out a piece of paper, and they reach out and hand it to you. And your honesty has prompted this reward, and that they're giving you whatever this folded up piece of paper is. And you go to take it, but they won't let go. And they hold onto it, and they tug closer, and you take a step forward. And they're very close to you when they say, "Why did Musin call you a god killer?"
Helen's immediate reaction is to want to deflect, just the way he has for many other questions that were asked. But they're also considering that comment about honesty. Also considering the predicament that they're currently in. And with that, Talon just simply says, I don't know, because I killed a god.
Isaac lets out a bark of laughter. That's impossible. Nobody's ever killed a god but another god before.
Trust me when I say that I don't have the answers either, but you're saying no one's ever done this. I mean, tell that to Dietlon. I mean, you can't because they're dead, but
You feel, when you say Dietlon's name, something stirring, sort of in the bottom of your stomach. Something that feels a little unsettled when you say his name, and you kind of glance over one shoulder, take a brief look, and There's nobody else there, but it's almost like you're expecting to see someone behind you. And you linger on that thought for a second, and you start to see something take shape, it seems, behind Isaac instead. And it slowly becomes a little bit more real, a little bit stronger. You see Lon standing behind Isaac, reaching out with one hand, one clawed hand, reaching out slowly toward them. If you'll permit me, I would like to use one of my chaos points.
I will grant you that.
I would like for you to wield a power. I would like to force you to wield a power. When you wield a power to do something only a god can do, roll 2d6 and add 1 for each true statement. Um, Dietland's power is reanimate. That is the power that has been gifted to you, reanimation. You've done this specific act before perfectly. You have not. You have not wielded this power before. You're desperate for this to work. Mark 1 strain. I would say not. You're close to a shrine, lair, or domain of the god you took this power from. That I would say yes. I would say
Okay.
you are very close to it, so I'll give you 1 for that. So go ahead and roll 2d6 and add 1.
That is a 6.
Okay. You see Dietlan reaching out toward Isaac, and then all of a sudden, very quickly reaching past Isaac toward you, and you feel these claws bury themselves into your chest and reach in, and slowly you can feel a hand wrapping around your heart and holding it. Not tightly, but almost as a reminder, and it squeezes once and forces your heart to skip a beat. Go ahead and mark 2 strain. Um, and actually, yes, mark 1 strain. Mark 1 strain for this. Not 2. Um, Isaac seems unbothered, does not seem aware, or does not seem to care about what is happening. What do you do?
Helen has stopped focusing on Isaac entirely. She has just tried to wrap a hand around the wrist of the hand that is going into them and is trying to pull.
You successfully do so. You are able to grab onto whatever this is. You tug once, almost tentatively, and you can feel physically your heart moving with that hand. You get the sense if you do this too fast, you will pull your own heart from your body. Either that or it's going to shatter and tear against your ribcage. You're not quite sure. Do you try to do it anyway?
No, that sensation is enough that Talon stops.
The figure that was behind Isaac is walking forward now, seems to pass through Isaac, and that's when you notice that Isaac isn't even blinking. It's almost like time has stopped for them. And Dietlan walks forward, this strange image of him that is sort of blurred around the edges and can't seem to fully take shape, but takes enough form that you can see. And then all of a sudden, that face is shifting into that mask. That face shifts into your mother's face. It shifts back into the face of Dietlan that you killed. And the hand pulls you forward. You stumble forward a step or two. And Dietlan leans in close and says, "Every time you tell somebody that you killed me, I want you to remember that I can still do this," and squeezes once again on your heart, and you feel it sort of stutter. Your lungs start to catch a little bit. And then the hand lets go, and the image disappears. and you let out a breath as you can breathe fully again. And then Isaac blinks once, looks at you, and says, "Well, how did you kill him?"
And when Isaac looks back, Talon's face is pale. They are sweating. There are tears in his eyes. And she just shakes her head. I'm not I'm not going to talk about it. It's not something to brag about. It's not something to be spoken of. I said more than I should have.
Not to be spoken of, you. And then Isaac's voice drops. You killed a god. Do you know how many people want to do that? At least here in this place? There's a god that runs around, a giant vulture that runs around eating their bodies day in and day out. Do you know how many people you could help?
You're you're Musin's most devout.
That doesn't mean I'm blind to what he does. Have you ever seen a man eaten whole? Or watched somebody's legs get torn from their body? Just for somebody's own amusement? You could do something really good here, and you won't even talk about it to anyone.
I can't just walk around to different places killing different gods.
Why not?
And Talon stops and thinks about that for a moment. And then shrugs. It might have been a fluke, it might have been an accident. I don't even know that it is something I can do again. I don't know that it's something I want to do again.
So you're not only stupid, you're a coward too.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I am. I'm not a fighter. I just ended up in a situation and it was the only choice I had.
Not a fighter? You killed the god of bone and death, and you think you're not a fighter?
Have you looked at me?
I mean, I wouldn't guess it off the top of my head, but Musin knows you're a god killer. That means the other gods probably do too. You were lucky to escape him once. I can't believe you don't want to help the people here.
It's not that I don't want to help them, it's that I'm not sure I can.
Not with that attitude, at the very least. If you follow this alley all the way out, nobody will bother you here. It's a clear shot out of the city. It's quiet, at the very least. If you're really just passing through, this is your quickest way out. And then Isaac holds out that piece of paper once again. Take this. I have a feeling you're going to need it where you're headed.
Talon accepts the piece of paper, puts it in his jacket pocket. Thank you.
Don't. Just keep in mind that some of us are the most devout because we don't have another choice. Being Musin's most devout keeps me safe, keeps me alive. I'd rather be that than just another sorry soul that he feasts on. Can't believe there's a god killer amongst us and you won't even help everyone. And you can see that Isaac's eyes, it's not even anger. It's almost like defeat. That somehow, when Isaac heard the term God killer, they took it somewhere. They took it far and created this whole idea, this whole image of what you could be and what you could do. And now you're not following through. And it is a defeated feeling and expression that you see on Isaac's shoulders. Don't say I didn't help you, at the very least.
It's appreciated, and for what it's worth, and I know it's not worth much, I'm sorry.
You should get your bike before somebody steals it.
I'll take that under advisement, and, well, if I ever end up here again, maybe our paths will cross.
Hopefully, I'm still alive. And Isaac turns and starts walking back the way that y'all came. Back toward the entryway, back toward the city under the bridge. And they reach your bike. They start wheeling it over to you, get it about halfway to where you are. And then they leave it there, turn back, and continue walking.
And Talon crosses the rest of the distance, gets the bike, slides his leg over, and sits there for what feels to him like ages, but is probably not even a minute. And they think about turning the bike back, following where Isaac is walking, trying to find Musin again. And that's where it breaks apart because she doesn't have any weapons. She doesn't have something that could take on a god like Musin. And so, thinking back to that defeat that they saw in Isaac, thinking about how that expression would look on Starling's face and the fact that he's seen some similar expressions at different times, usually when he's questioning Colaris to Starling's face. There is such a big part of him that wants to take action, that wants to do something, that can't bear the thought that maybe he could do something, that he could stop the type of horror that was witnessed at the tavern. But then they just take off and don't look back.
The alley that you're following is pretty narrow. You have to kind of slow down at times to kind of very gently walk your bike past debris or trash that's gathered on the sides. But as Isaac said, it leads you outside the city. And you're about 3/4 of the way down the bridge itself. You're able to continue without running into anybody else and keep on toward the mirrored city if you would like. Um, but as you're going along, there is another path that you come across that marks a direction toward Noth and OTH, which you would be aware is another city. Um, Not quite as big as the Mirrored City. Mirrored City is considered more of the capital of the Cradle, whereas Noth is one of the smaller cities, but is known as a city of excess, a city of wealth, of riches, of everything that humans want the most of. Which way do you go?
I think they would move towards Noth. They
Okay.
are on the road, and it is another place to see.
You start to take that path off to one side, and your bike kind of swerves for a second, as though you had taken the handles and jerked them over to the right toward the mirrored city before it reorients itself and continues on. You travel for about 2 days to get to the city of Noth. It is quite far away. There are smaller towns, places that you're able to find a place to rest, a small bit of refuge. Um, Usually it's with just some on somebody's couch or in a spare bedroom somewhere. You have, a few bit of coins that you're able to trade for an evening's rest, a meal here and there. But eventually you do arrive at the city of Noth, and it is a very grand place to be. The buildings are stark white. It's Greco Roman inspired, so there are columns everywhere. There's etchings in all of the buildings. People are wearing layers and layers of fabric in bright colors and pure whites that just scream wealth, scream rich. Um, an important distinction, actually. It is a city of wealth, but the people themselves walk around like they are rich. They walk around with all of their wealth shown on themselves. It's a city where if you don't look like you belong, it is very, very evident very quickly. And Talon does not look like she belongs in the city of Noth. Not in her dark clothes, not with her lack of gold rings and jewelry and fine silvers and things like that. You Do you ride into the city or do you stop outside of it?
I don't think Talon would consider like stopping and walking. I think they just like fully ride in, much like they did to the last place. Like they absolutely did not consider how much they would stand out in this way. If for the most part they just did not want to continue towards the mirrored city, and also wanted to see what life looks like here, because they've heard about Noth, but they haven't seen this excess, this richness shown so visibly.
You ride into the city. And when you entered the city under the bridge, it was like nobody really wanted to meet your eyes. Everybody glanced at you out of the corner of their eyes and were taking note of you, but nobody really wanted to spend too much time lingering on the stranger. That is not the case here. Everyone stops and turns, and they start to gather. Because who is this who has the audacity to ride in, looking like a commoner, looking like somebody less than everyone here in this city? To brazenly ride in on a very loud bike with a falcon. Who is this person who would do that? And they start to gather to the point that you have to stop your bike. They are swarming you. And it reminds you a little bit of what it was like when you first left Colaris's temple after tithing, after the battle with Dietlan, after receiving your mission, when everybody wanted to be there and be close and see the God Killer with their own eyes. People are swarming and they're getting close, but not too close. They look a bit fascinated, almost. They seem surprised by just generally who you are as a person. Um, but they do start to get a little bit closer and they start to peer. They're kind of turning their heads and they're all whispering. And finally, somebody shouts, "Who is this?" And it begins to echo through the crowd. Yeah, who is this person? What is going on? And then they start to ask themselves, well, is this something that one of the gods did? Is this a gift? And that bothers you. One, they think you came from the gods. And two, they think you're some kind of gift. It is objectifying in the worst way. It's very uncomfortable. But nonetheless, that is what you are hearing. And we will pause there for a moment to go ahead and go on break. So we're about halfway through the session. So stretch your legs, take your meds, drink a water, eat a food, pet some pets, do whatever it is you need to do to rejuvenate yourself for the second half. We will be back here in about 10 minutes. So sit tight, everybody. We'll be back soon. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Thanks for sticking around. I'm going to take a second to just redrop our content warnings for Godkiller in the chat. If you are just joining us, please keep in mind this game does deal with mature topics. You can see those content warnings in the chat. Those will be particularly relevant for this episode, so just keep it in mind, friends. Feel free to take a step back if you need to take a step back. So, we have arrived in the city of Noth, and people are swarming and looking and objectifying in a really uncomfortable way this gift from the gods that they think is going on right now. Um, Talon, what do you do as all of this is happening around you?
Talon very much feels trapped. They can't keep moving on their bike. He doesn't want to get off the bike and just walk. That feels really uncomfortable in the midst of all of these people that are now focused on her. He's so glad that he is wearing the helmet, and so no one can see his face, no one can see his eyes. He doesn't have to worry about that piece, but Talon has never liked attention on them. And now there is not just attention, but the objectification as well. She is not used to being looked at in this way whatsoever.
Give me 1 second. You can see kind of this all of these people. The faces are kind of blurring together because there's just so many. And then suddenly it looks like there's some kind of shuffling happening in the crowd, almost like somebody is trying to push their way through all of these people and get to the front and center. And finally somebody walks out and kind of holds their hands up. Have you never seen somebody from another city before? Why are you all acting like animals? This is absolutely ridiculous. And this person walks forward and approaches you and very quietly just says to you, just give me a moment. Everything will go away in a second. Turns around and then starts to very loudly proclaim, this person is a gift and a present and a excuse me. This person is a gift and a guest of the gods themselves. Mind your manners and take steps back. And you can see that the crowd is now starting to mutter, not only a gift, but not a gift for us, a guest of the gods, and it's starting to back up and it's kind of starting to flounder and panic a little bit, which is interesting because when you were a gift for them, they were very, very eager, all too comfortable with getting close and poking and prodding. But now that the gods are expecting you, this is a little bit more concerning. This is a little bit more fear inducing. People start to disperse as the stranger kind of shoos them away, turns back to you and says, so are you going to tell me who you are, or do I have to keep putting on this show until everybody is gone?
Oh, that was a show. Okay, I thought, we're not going to get into what I thought. Hi, I'm Talon. I keep saying this to people. I was just passing through.
Just passing through. Dressed like that.
And Talon looks down at themselves and looks back up. I didn't know there was a dress code.
Darling, you look like you just crawled out of the gutters. What is this? You think that we're here to be around plebeians? You think that's what we do in the city of Noth? And this person is wearing layers and layers of necklaces. Their clothes are red and purple and blue. They've got rings on all of their fingers, bracelets going up to their elbows. Their hair is done in dreadlocks. They're a black person with long feathered earrings hanging from their ears. For your knowledge, this person is Rain van der Westra, any and all pronouns. Their first name is Rain. We're going to have to get you something else to wear if you're going to be staying in this city with us. This is absolutely unacceptable. And are you here to see the gods? What exactly are you here for? Just passing through isn't going to cut it. You've got to give me something else.
I just wanted to see what the city looks like.
Okay. Well, first let's get you changed and find somewhere to store this thing and kind of gestures to the bike. You'll need to take the helmet off as well. We don't need any of that here. And Rain turns around and starts walking in a direction very confidently. Do you follow?
Talon really has nowhere else to go and nothing else to do, so yeah, they once again they follow.
Being a fish out of water is really becoming Talon's thing in these cities. You are you still riding the bike? Are you straddling the bike and walking it? Or are you walking next to it?
I think at this point Talon has hopped off and is walking next to the bike.
Okay. So you're wheeling the bike along. People have mostly dispersed, but they're not quite moving completely away. Um, the ones that have dispersed are taking care with other activities at this point. Very openly, it seems. There are people consuming different kinds of drugs. There are people just gorging themselves on different kinds of foods. There are people having sex in the alleyways nearby. This is truly a city of excess and a city of pleasure. Um, you follow Rain, who has not given you their name so far, but does indeed seem very confident, very comfortable taking charge of the situation. But you follow Rain, you follow this person through the crowd. They eventually lead you to what looks like they gesture to it and say you can store things in this shed. This is not a shed. This is looks like a small house. Very grandiose, nice white stucco walls, a red tiled roof. It's absolutely beautiful. This by no means looks like any kind of shed, but you know, this is whatever to Rain at the very least. You open the doors to it. It is filled to the brim with platters of food and just luxurious kinds of things. Things that you wouldn't really expect to see. No technology, which is kind of interesting because in a city of excess and a city of wealth, you would think access to technology. You don't really see any of that, but you see lots of golds and sapphires and emeralds and diamonds and rubies. You see piles of food, piles almost to the ceiling of different cakes and different kinds of sandwiches and steaks and different kinds of meats. It's honestly terrible, really, is what it is. And then you hear what makes it even worse is then you hear Rain say, nobody uses any of this anyway, so you can just store your bike here. And that's when it kind of clicks for you that this is a city of excess, but this is a city that hoards its wealth, hoards everything it has. How does that sit with Talon?
Oh, that does not sit well with them at all. They're just taking in this shack that isn't a shack and everything that has just been left there. And I don't think they can stop themselves from looking to Rain and asking who put all of this in there. Why did they leave it?
Oh, it's just, to show what I have. I get the sense that you don't do this in the other cities wherever you're from, but this is just simply to. I mean, if anybody were to come by, I wouldn't want them to think that I didn't have things, right?
What would be so terrible about that?
About not having things.
Well, about not having things that you don't even use.
Well, then I wouldn't have them.
But what is the purpose of having something if you don't use it?
I don't know if we're going to connect on this. The purpose is to have them. What more do I need? I have them. That's enough for me.
But what about the people who don't have anything?
Well, like I said, we're not here to bump shoulders with plebeians. That's not what we do in the city. And if you don't have enough, then you probably don't last here.
So you have to keep taking to be able to stay here.
I'm getting the sense that this is not pleasing to you.
No, it's not.
You would prefer that I use this? I'm just one person. I can't possibly.
So then why not give it to others?
Just give it away. Do you have any idea what people would do for wealth like this? Just give it away, they say. And Rain turns around and looks just purely aghast. Looks completely confused. Come on, camera. There we go. Looks completely confused and purely aghast at the idea of just giving this away. Um, how much are you paying attention to Rain versus the space around you?
I think at this point, Talon's attention has primarily narrowed on Rain, so there's definitely a little bit of blinders unless something were to catch their gaze in particular.
Okay. Um, Rain starts to move through this shack. Um, kind of kicks things to the side, shuffles past them very blindly, knocks over a platter of food and just lets it fall to the ground. And when it falls to the ground, the noise kind of catches your attention. You glance over. You can see that beneath these tables is rotted food and cracked gems and just filth, really. And Rain catches you looking and kind of goes and covers it up, pulls down a cloth and kind of tries to hide it and says, don't mind that. It'll be gone very soon. We don't have to worry about that. Let me find you something to wear. And kind of disappears back into behind all of these piles of things. Do you do anything while Rain has disappeared from you?
Just examine things a little more in depth, really kind of take stock of what all is in here.
You see a range of gems. And that is interesting to you because the gems would be kind of that most obvious thing of wealth that shows off fanciness, really, if you will. But that seems to be what's fewest in this entire space. So you see a range of them, but there aren't that many. Um, the food that is piled high is of many different kinds, and some of it is fresh, some of it seems a day or two old, some of it seems much older than that. It's there, you're starting to notice there's a smell to this place. um, you see a clutter of what looks like children's toys just there. You see cabinets that, if you open them, seem to be full of different pills and different drugs and things like that. Um, you see just piles and piles and piles of cloth, of linens, of fabrics, all in bright dyed colors. None of them are in sort of the neutral colors that you're more used to seeing, that most everybody wears in Angelfell. Um, this is excess to the extreme. But the category of things is interesting to you. Is there anything in particular that you're looking for in this space?
I don't think anything specific. Talon's just wanting to get a sense for what kind of those patterns are in terms of the objects, but honestly, overall, is more just staring at these different items and registering that I have no doubt, like any one pile of them could give Angelfell as an entire community money to last for weeks upon weeks upon weeks. And just really taking stock of that and drawing those comparisons to what life in Angelfell looks like and how it is not this.
It is certainly striking how intense the differences can be. Um, it Mac, you are absolutely onto it. This place sucks. This place absolutely sucks. um, it's striking and it's discomforting. And eventually, as you're pondering this, Rain does return holding what seems to be a few different articles of clothing. Um, Hands them to you. You see a tunic shirt, a bunch of different tunic shirts, some of them in bright colors and patterns, some of them in more softer blues, some of them in more muted purples. You see just simple trousers in darker shades, but just nicer than what you're wearing. You see new shoes. You see jewelry. Rain seems to want to dress you up in the way that the other residents of Noth are dressed and holds everything out to you and says, "You can take your pick out of this, but you can change in the back, or I can go to the back and you can change here. Whatever you prefer, just do something to fix this." Do you accept anything that Rain is trying to offer to you?
As much as Talon doesn't like it, there is logic to the idea of being able to fit in a little bit more than he has been so far. And so, for that reason alone, she takes the articles of clothing and tries to go for the ones that are the least vibrant and have the most comfortable fabric attached to them as much as they can replicate the type of clothes that they're used to.
Um, we'll say you find just, I mean, these are the softest silks you've ever seen before. The comfort is definitely there. Um, you find some simple slacks, some simple trousers that you can wear. Um, Actually, does Talon wear trousers or a dress or skirts, or what does Talon wear?
I think in this case, they'll stick to trousers. They usually are in trousers just because of the work they do, that it's the easiest to move around the woods in and be down by the shore in. Um,
That
so,
makes
yeah,
sense.
they would gravitate towards that.
Okay. You find trousers that are very simple, just like a very neutral, soft gray, and a tunic top that's in sort of a muted blue color. Again, very soft, very comfortable. As you are changing and you come back out and you walk back out to Rain, Rain kind of smiles, looks at you and says, "That's so much better," but and goes and grabs what looks like just a scarf or just like some kind of a different strip of silk, kind of drapes it over your shoulders, wraps it around so you've got it hanging from your neck as well as almost in a cowl fashion. Um, there. Now you look like you fit in. Now you look like you belong. You said your name was Talon, right?
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah.
Wonderful. Now that I've gifted you these, you can hand me your clothes and I can take care of those. And Rain goes to reach for your clothes. Do you allow them to take them?
Not initially, at least. Talon kind of holds them a little bit back and says, "What do you plan to do with them?"
Well, ideally burn them, but at the very least put them where nobody can find them again. They're kind of an eyesore.
Well, I would like to have them when I do leave, since, as I said, I'm just passing through.
But you could keep these much nicer, much softer, much prettier, cleaner, generally better clothes that I've given you.
But that would be unfortunate for them because the type of work I do would destroy them very, very quickly.
If you insist, and Rain walks past you, goes and grabs a silk bag and holds it out to you to put your clothes in.
Talon accepts that.
Do you leave the folded up piece of paper in your jacket pocket or do you keep it on you that Isaac gave you?
Talon would keep it on them.
Okay. Um, Rain, I forgot Rain's name for a second. Rain takes the bag, ties it off, makes a point of showing you, I'm just setting it here, right next to your bike. You'll be able to come back and get it. Um, what is Sunshine doing during all of this?
I would imagine Sunshine has been just kind of like hopping around this storage container and examining what is there.
Does Sunshine, I don't know this about falcons in general. I'm thinking of crows that collect trinkets. Does Sunshine have a tendency of collecting trinkets?
I don't know if that's something that falcons do, but I'm going to say yes, because
Okay,
this is our story in our world, and
I
the
love it.
falcons can do what they want.
Roll me a d6 just to see what Sunshine finds.
That's a 6.
When Sunshine makes their way back to you, um, they have a pearl necklace, two emeralds, and a cucumber cake clutched in between their claws. The cucumber cake is mostly crushed, but they do indeed have it. And they kind of set it down in front of you, look down at it, look up at you quizzically, kind of waiting to see if you do anything.
Do you want it? You you can maybe have it. Do you want me to have it?
Sort of nudges one of the emeralds toward you, and then goes and grabs the rest of what is still laid out there.
Talon picks up the emerald.
You now have an emerald on you. It seems pure. It seems very much just a normal emerald. Um, Rain looks at you, finally says, "By the way, my name is Rain. Um, you, we don't get many strangers coming through this way, to be completely honest. And you say you're just passing through. Where are you coming from?"
I was coming from Angelfell.
"Far enough away. How interesting. A few days' travel at the very least." Excuse me. Um, well, I'm happy to show you around Noth if you would like, or you can be free to explore now that you look much more presentable and acceptable. What would you prefer?
You know this city much more than I would welcome your guidance.
Oh, wonderful. I was really hoping you would say that because I don't like to just leave somebody laying around after I've gifted them so many wonderful things. And of course, I'm sure you have things that you can gift back, but we can talk about that later. And Rain turns around and begins to walk out of this space. Um, it is a whirlwind of introductions as Rain shows you um, all of these different, again, interestingly enough, almost exactly the same things that you saw in the city under the bridge, but cleaner in a way and more open about things. There are brothels, there are taverns, there are bars, there are eateries. People are very open with nudity here. Some people are just walking around completely in the nude, some people without tops, some people without pants. Um, there are corners where people are gathered around, seeming to be in some kind of drug induced haze and are just out there and seem very comfortable with that. Certainly nothing like you have ever seen before, and different in a way from the city under the bridge. Even for so many similarities, it still feels very different, but continues to walk along. Um, I need to look at something very quickly. Oh, but where do I find it? Where is it?
We always love it when GMs need to check some notes.
Look, it's a 21-page document, okay? It's buried in here somewhere. Where is it? Oh, I'm in the wrong document, that's why. There we go. Um, until eventually Rain leads you to probably the grandest building that you have seen so far. And it is completely covered in gold. Completely. Not a single surface. The windows seem to be covered in gold themselves. It's awful. It's gaudy. It's absolutely hideous. But it is by far the brightest thing here. The sun is catching it. It's casting lights reflecting off everywhere. Um, Rain kind of does a flourish and a bow and says, "And of course, we have the temples, the finest of which you will find here. My own god, to be sure. This is the temple cloaked in gold. This is the temple of Bebium, the god of excess. How does Talon feel about Bebium?"
Talon hasn't known that much, at least in terms of direct experiences with the gods, but just understanding that Bebion is the god of excess. They haven't liked that. That's always struck a nerve with them because much as they express to Rain, they don't understand the idea of certain people having everything and others having much less to nothing.
Rain looks expectant almost, and almost like she's waiting for some kind of response from you, some sort of excitement, some sort of enthusiasm that you are clearly not giving, which is sort of blowing their mind. Um, but Rain kind of pauses, looks a little confused. "Are you not here to see Bebium?"
I told you I was just passing through. What made you think I was here to see them?
"Well, everyone should be. I mean, have you seen this temple? It's gorgeous. And it's even better inside. Surely you must." And kind of reaches for your hand.
And Talon moves their hand away and takes a step back. I'm not sure I would be welcome.
"You're dressed appropriately now. You look the part. Surely you have something to give. Just for a moment, come and see."
If you think that is wise, I suppose stepping inside won't do any harm.
You start to approach, and the temple doors are thrown open. And standing there is a human, mostly, a goat head, four arms hanging. They are dressed in what is can mostly be compared to sort of like traditional Parisian masculine outfits, with all of the patterns and the puffy collar and the puffy sleeves that kind of slim down into fitted form by the wrist. Um, they stand there for a moment and they look at Rain, and Rain drops to a knee and then drops to their second knee and is almost in child's pose in front of this entity. What do you do?
Oh, Talon just stands there.
I love Talon so much. "You're not going to kneel?" this goat person asks.
Well, with all due respect, you're not my god.
"I'm going to use one of my chaos points, and you see before you feel this sort of force of energy that throws you back into one of the buildings behind you. Go ahead and mark one strain. You are thrown into this building and you kind of sag next to it, winded, breathing heavily. And this entity very calmly asks once more, "You're not going to kneel."
And Talon doesn't even think about it. They don't hesitate. They don't mean to say it either. Or at least they don't think they do, because they just instinctively respond with no.
How interesting. And the entity snaps their fingers, and there is a rope that appears kind of around your waist, and they start pulling you toward them. And they turn and disappear into the temple, letting go of the rope, but the rope continues to drag you along. Do you try to fight it?
Yes.
For chat, I'm sorry, JD and I played a game earlier today, and I was just about to have you roll physicality because we were playing Invisible Sun earlier, and that's immediately where my brain went to.
I miss having
Um,
stats.
I miss having stats too. It's kind of nice. Uh, are you? What are you doing to try? Are you doing anything to try and resist, or are you just trying? Are you using any power to try and resist? Is what I'm getting at.
No.
Okay. Um, I would say this probably constitutes acting impulsively.
I was thinking that too.
Wonderful. When you act impulsively, describe the emotion that drives you in answer one. The GM will tell you something you didn't notice until now as they answer the other. Um, what is the emotion that drives you?
I think it's anger at this point because Talon has now had three different gods tell her to kneel and force her to kneel at different points. And they're not really having any of this at this point.
I think that's very valid of her. Um, do you want to answer what advantage do you seize or what trouble hits you hard and fast?
I'm gonna go with what advantage do you seize? And I'm thinking with that Talon kind of throws things a bit off balance with this because I don't think there's any expectation that they're going to try to fight or resist or do anything other than what is now literally being dragged out of them.
I think that absolutely makes sense. Because this is a god that, as most gods, they don't expect disobedience. When they order something, they expect it to be done. Whether that is a request or a demand, they don't expect to be kept waiting. And absolutely, you pulling back, you grabbing onto the rope and yanking it back toward you so that it doesn't have as much leverage on you, surprises Bebium, because that is who this is, at least enough to turn back around, and she kind of regards you for a moment. The trouble that hits you hard and fast, that you may have connected in the back of your brain but didn't quite consider, is that Rain is Bebium's most devout and is still there kneeling. So the trouble that hits you hard and fast is Rain themselves as she stands up, grabs your hands. What are you doing? Why are you trying to fight this? Just go inside.
I didn't ask for any of this. I don't want to be here.
You wanted to see this in the city of Noth. This is the best way to see it.
By being dragged into a temple?
If Bebium asks for something, and I'm going to use another chaos point at this moment, as a little bit farther away, you feel, you remember being with Dietlan, you remember being with Musin and Kalaris, that heavy weight that gods have that just sinks on your shoulders and forces you to do whatever they say. You feel that erupting somewhere in the city. And if you were to glance over, there is suddenly a fountain of water that is spraying from somewhere. How much how much does Helen know about the other deities? I think we've established this before, but help me remember. Is it a general knowledge? Are there specific ones aside from Laslios that Talon would know about?
I think for the most part, it's more general knowledge, unless they've had a direct connection with any of the gods.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's more of what they've heard.
Okay. Um, then this fountain of water erupts. This is the city of excess. This is the city of beauty. This could be anything. This could be a fucking display and a fucking parade for all that we know. But you do know that there are two other gods that have domains here, and one of them is the god of water and movement. And so there is a very strong possibility that that is what is happening. And then you hear, before you see, this very loud, thunderous roar. And it's gaining energy, gaining momentum, seems to be getting closer and closer. And all of a sudden, this sort of plaza that you're in, that you're kind of standing in before you were being dragged in toward this temple, starts to flood and fill with water. And people are beginning to run and scream and panic. This is the most movement that you have seen in the city so far. The most, despite all of the other activities that are going on, this is the most frantic energy that you have seen in this city as people are starting to absolutely freak the fuck out. Rain lets go of your hands and runs into the temple after Bebium. What do you do?
As much as Talon doesn't want to, he knows the dangers of rising water from his time in Angelfell
Mm-hmm.
and what they have seen. And so, as much as they don't want to, they are running right after Rain.
You begin to sprint toward this temple. Are you looking back, or are you just dead set on running ahead?
Looking back,
You get to a point where you're a little bit safely away from the rising waters and you glance back and you see people dancing in the water. And you see them twirling around, dancing amongst each other. And then you look at their faces and they look distraught and they look afraid. And you know that Bayon is the god of movement, the god of water. You've also heard rumors that Bayon is called the cruelest god because Bayon will have people doing things until they die, all for his own entertainment. And what would the god of movement ask except for dancing? And these people have started to dance, and there is a frantic fear in their eyes, and you are barely escaping the waters before you enter into this temple and the door shut behind you, locking the water out. And you look around and you can see a few other people gathered inside, some of them breathing heavily. Excuse my chihuahua, shaking her head and wrangling her whole collar. Um, some of them breathing heavily, having just run inside. You see Rain kind of standing off to one side, gasping for breath. The rope is still tied around your waist. Amidst all of this, you do see Bebium closer to the center of the space. Seems to be almost trying to soothe someone, which is a strange humanity that you haven't seen before from a god. But you can hear as you get closer Bebium saying, "Shh, it's all right. The water is outside. It can't get you here. This is my domain, and I won't have him ruining things." Turning to somebody else, placing a hand on their back, kind of stroking their hair a little bit. "You're going to be all right. All you have to do is wait it out." What do you do?
Talon stands back just watching this. That that moment of almost humanity of empathy really throws him off because that isn't what he would expect from most of the gods, at least. And At this point, they are just trying not to be noticed, if at all possible, either by Rain or Bebium.
Almost sensing that you don't want to be noticed, one of Bebium's eyes snaps over to you, the other staying focused on this person in front of them, but one of their eyes flicks over to you with those square pupils, blinks once hard at you before slowly drifting back to the person that they are comforting. Doesn't do anything, doesn't say anything. You feel the rope that's around your waist sort of tug tight and then loosen, and you glance down as it disappears. You look over at Bebium, and you can see that he sort of drifts his hand in a circle next to this person, and a chair appears. Gently sets this person in the chair, continues to stroke their hair and offer condolences and comforts as best as he can. Rain approaches you. I thought you didn't want to be in the temple.
Well, it wasn't really a choice given what was happening outside.
Hmm, I suppose. Are you familiar with Bayon?
I can't say that I am. I've heard some things, but not much.
Well, there will be blood to clean in the streets tomorrow, so might as well get comfortable. We'll be here for the night.
Is all of this a common occurrence?
Bayon is volatile, and you can see that Rain is kind of glancing over at Bebium as she's speaking, and they're kind of choosing their words very carefully. Has a tendency to react strongly to things. And suddenly, very abruptly, Bebium is standing next to you both. And Bebium just hisses, Bayon is a fucking brat, is what it is. And Rain tries not to laugh, glances at you, kind of shakes their head, telling you not to laugh either. And then
Oh,
Bebium,
Talon definitely like has to really choke back a laugh.
Bebium definitely notices, definitely catches on that Talon seems a little entertained by this. Um, before taking a step back, suddenly appearing next to two more people, one of them a child who seems very afraid, very uncomfortable. You have not seen many children here, so it's interesting to see a child inside the temple now. Um, but Bebium reaches into their cloak, produces a little train toy, offers it to the child to be able to start to play with. The kid takes it, sort of runs it around on the ground, very half heartedly. You can tell this kid is not very entertained, but is using the distraction for what it is. The parent that's with them is nodding and thanking Bebium for their kindness. The god is not wrong. Bayon is reactive, as I said. It's not something that you should just be careful not to catch yourself in the middle of it if you can avoid it.
I'll do what I can to not get caught in the middle.
It's the best that we all can do. But now you're here, and I'm going to use my third chaos point because I think I was gifted three tonight, if I was keeping track correctly. Um, my final chaos point. There is a loud crack coming from within the temple, and you glance over, and the altar that is at the front of the temple is split. And that is where we are going to end tonight's session.
This is fine.
The God Killer just walked into a temple and the altar got destroyed. Surely everything is going to be fine and not point toward Talon.
No, this is just a really terrible coincidence that has
Exactly.
nothing to do with them.
Exactly. It's going to be totally fine. Um, But yes, we're going to go ahead and wrap the session there. I'll be very excited to return. We return next week with the next episode of God Killer. We're back on schedule. So every Saturday we will be here. Before I get into the rest of the schedule, I'm going to hand it over to JD to do outros. Let us know who you are, where we can find you, and plug anything that you would like to plug.
Thank you. I have a lot of things actually in this next week, so it's going to be a busy time. Tomorrow night, I'm going to be over with Live from the Apocalypse for a live recording of Academy H, our Masks Actual Play podcast. On Tuesday, I'll be here. I know Kian will be mentioning that as well, but I will be here for the Call Us Villains, our Masks horror game. Thursday, I'll be over with LFTA again for Redacted, our psychological horror game where everyone is a haunted duplex. And we're actually currently moving into doing some duets. I guess it's not duets when each person is playing like 4 to 5 different people, but in essence, it still is. And then Friday, I will be over with Folk and Myth, continuing our Vampire the Masquerade game, where a lot of interesting things are happening. And then I'll be back here next Saturday.
Thank you kindly. Um, as I said at the top, my name is Kian. My pronouns are they, them. You can find me on the interwebs at uptight-chiffon on Blue Sky. Um, as JD said, well, actually, before that, on Monday, I will be here for Fall of the Ashen Throne, our finale. I'm super excited. Um, I love that character so much. I love my character in that game. It's such a good time. Their playlist is strictly composed of songs about murder and songs about love. And those are the vibes every single session. It's so good. It makes me so happy. On Tuesday, I will be here for They Call Us Villains, our horror masked actual play. I have the most normal lad. Like, Valen doesn't even have any powers. It's super chill. It's totally fine. Um, JD is not going to bully us this next session at all. It's going to be fine.
I would never.
Of course, you wouldn't. On Wednesday, I will be over on High Shelf Collective for Beacons of Farlight. We are in our final arc. Um, I love my character there too. I just really love the little lads that I play. I've got an acorn for a heart. Like, what is there not to love about my little lad over there? So definitely go check that out on High Shelf Collective. And then running through the, oh, I'm sorry, I actually have, well, I can't plug it yet. I've got another project coming up that I'm super excited about. It's finally getting off the ground. Keep an eye on social media. That is where you will hear about it first. But to go through the rest of Entropy Emporium's schedule, Mondays, Fall of the Ashen Throne. Tuesdays, They Call Us Villains. Thursdays, God Complex, a Girl by Moonlight actual play GM'd by Will. Fridays, Weird Wilds War, a 5e actual play GM'd by JT. And we will eventually schedule the last half of the finale of Blooming in the Rot, our Invisible Sun actual play. So keep an eye out. We'll let you know when that's happening. Um, Oh, my favorite part. I always forget to look at raids. We are going to raid somebody, so sit tight. Whoever we end up raiding, be sure to send a couple of comments in their chat so that they get credit for the views. Let them know who sent you, where you came from. Be sure to send some love to them. So sit tight. We will be sending a raid very shortly. But thank you all for hanging out tonight. I adore you all. Be kind to yourselves, each other, and the planet. As a gentle reminder, community is what's going to save us right now. So hold each other up, figure out what you can do to support the people around you because that's really all that we can count on right now. We will see you here next Saturday for the next episode of God Killer Desecration, where I'm sure everything is going to be just dandy. It's going to be super chill. Nothing is going to go wrong.
We're going to have a beach episode.
Exactly. It's going to be a beach episode. It's going to be awesome. But yes, we will see you next time, everybody. Bye. Where's the button?